I've read some stuff on Facebook, and it's once again all the social stuff, but people are struggling with anxiety. I just had an email today of a person writing about anxiety, and I'm thinking, you're saying, let's be ourselves, let's work on that. You working with people to become more uniquely them. There is going to be a level of anxiety, but where does that land up? They're not going to stay in a state of anxiety. This is what I'm picking up what you're saying, because once you realize who you really are and your uniqueness, it doesn't matter what others say, because you're secure in what you are.
Yes.
The anxiety is just, I don't know who I am, and it might be that transition phase. Am I getting it correct? Am I picking up?
It's part of the process. If you think back to the first day you went to school,
Oh my word, yes.
you may or may not have known how to write your name. Yes. You may or may not have known how to read a few sentences.
Correct.
But you definitely did not know how to write a matric final exam.
No ways. No, that's a bit soon.
That's a bit steep. And you know what? The fact is, by the time you got to matric, you have grown into that.
Everything sort of builds.
That's right. And it's about taking that first step. The other day I had someone telling me that they had writer's block.
Oh, yes. That is very real.
It's a thing. I mean, it happens. It happens to all of us. And what I shared with him that works for me is when I have writer's block and I have to take something up that I've written the previous day, it helps to just start by reading through what you've already written and start editing that. And then as you do that, your brain gets trained back into your trail of thought. And it gets lulled into, it's okay, I'm doing this, I can do this.
It's almost like warming yourself up again.
It's warming up, yes. I think it's Stephen King that, as part of his writing process, he wrote a wonderful book on writing, and it's actually called Stephen King on Writing. And he also, when he starts to write, he first reads what he's written the previous day.
To get himself into that flow again so that he can continue.
Yes, because you kind of pick up on the structure, the vibe, the everything. And you know what? Life is like that as well. If you work with, say, anxiety, and you've got anxiety in a certain area, and you start working with it while you're not in the situation.
Interesting, yes.
And you can prepare yourself already to think, if this happens, what am I going to do? What are my options? So you don't have to choose yet, but you open up some options. Say, for instance, having a very difficult conversation. What are my options? Okay, I can shush and just listen. Or I can get up and walk away. Or I can really actively listen and start reacting to not what I'm thinking about, but what the other person is really saying. So really go into a conversation instead of just speaking your mind. So can you see how all these different things are possibilities?
Exactly. And how they can add to actually overcoming something.
Yes.
And maybe it won't be anxiety anymore. Maybe it won't be fear-oriented. Like maybe you say now, you can translate it into excitement.
Exactly. And if you have this implementation intention, so it's the intention to implement something that I have thought through, it can help you in some very difficult situations, and get through some challenging relationships, maybe at work, maybe family relationships, if you start really opening up the possibilities for yourself, instead of getting stuck into your beliefs. That is also a very South African thing, I think, that we need to really look at, but not only South Africa, globally.
Yes.
I heard a beautiful one the other day. The definition of tradition is peer pressure from dead people. And I just giggle about that.
That is so true. That is so true.
And you know what? We can't live in the same way that people have done it for thousands of years. We have to deal with technology and challenges that they could not even in their wildest dreams
imagine that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier, how would they have ever known we would have social media the way that we do?
Exactly. My grandmother is 104. So she has
Lord,
lived. She's still going strong.
Impressive.
Yeah, she'll be 105 in February.
Goodness.
And I mean, if you just think about the changes she had to live through, you can't even grasp the changes. And at some stage, she just said, okay, this is enough. She doesn't have a cell phone, kind of that stuff, because it just became too much. And that's sometimes what happens to the brain as well. You can get so overwhelmed if things becomes too much.
Exactly.
That you have to start making decisions of what you want to focus on. And coming back to belief systems, sometimes our belief systems can keep us stuck, so that we keep moving in a certain way that is no longer appropriate.
Yes. And also not beneficial.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not only move, but think. Because try to move if you haven't thought it through.
It's difficult.
It happens in a split second, but you have to make some decisions before you can move, you know?
Yes.
So it's very interesting how all these things impact on each other. How training your brain and balancing your brain, balancing the big picture with going into the detail and being able to zoom in and out when you need it. On the other hand, being able to really connect with something or take that little bit of a step back. You know, that's also that's a brain function. When to know when to move in and when to take a bit of a back seat. On the other side, when to sidestep to the one side or the other side, you know. When to engage with what you're thinking and how you're feeling about it. And when you can get both of those thinking and feeling on the same page, magic happens, eh? The beautiful things that comes from being really integrated. Body, mind, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you're believing. Becoming aware of, what am I believing that's no longer working for me?
Exactly.